Harry Truman, Tim. That's Mayor Henry's number 2. He's the buck stops here, famous slogan.
Yep.
Mayor Henry really thinks that he's it's his second favorite president, and one reason is because he stood on his principles, and a lot of times they weren't popular, but he always said, "I'm the president," and well, he didn't say it like that, but I mean, he said the buck stops here. In fact, he even had a sign on his desk, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
That says that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's another one that's up there.
Yeah, I like Truman as well. I mean, even though when he left office, he was one of the most unpopular leaving. I'm not sure if...
He wasn't, though, interested in winning any popularity contest, was he?
Mm.
And that's very uncommon in political leaders throughout the world, really, not just in America.
That's right.
I mean, this is a man that stood on his principles, and that's it. And he did, and he had... it's interesting that 20, 40 years later, people appreciate that. At the time, no.
Not so much.
Not so much.
I think it was around... I don't know the exact
I'm not
percentage.
sure
It was in
either.
the low 20s. I'm not sure if the last president we had a lower rating. I think it was close. I'm not sure.
Well, we're going to get into the rating thing when we talk about our current president, Barack Obama, Tim. That's also on the list here of things to talk about. How about President Clinton? He's getting a lot of attention today because I think there's 2 reasons. Monica Lewinsky came out and wrote a book or something lately, and wasn't it a book, or she's been on the news
I've
lately.
heard about something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was a book, and her story about being an intern at the White House and how she got the job and what she's doing today and so on and so forth. And I don't think, Tim, it's going to be on the New York Times bestseller list, but there's something out there like that. The other reason is, and I think it's good, there's a documentary out. In fact, tonight on CBS, it will be aired tonight, worldwide really, on CBS at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, about Clinton. And it's interesting because, yes, they do bring up, I saw a preview, they do bring up Monica Lewinsky, but they bring up a lot of good things that this man did. And I can remember growing up in the Clinton era, Tim, we're all talking about looking for jobs and finding work. I mean, jobs is like, everybody talks about that. Everyone does that. But I can remember in the Clinton era, jobs you could find. Yeah. If you applied for them and you went for them and you could get them and you could actually pick and choose back then. We didn't have gas prices at $3.75 a gallon, and there weren't any big issues about the economy back then. Well, maybe the deficit was increasing, but it was almost like a good period of time. So Clinton, I want to tell you right now, is one of my favorites. Do you agree or not?
Me? Well, when I was
when I was that
age,
I want to hear your opinion. This is news and views.
When I was that age, I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I didn't like him, but that was just because of, my political affiliation at the time. I can appreciate some of the things he did. I mean, because they called how he led, like the third way was not too liberal. It's just more more moderate. And he had trouble working with the Republican Congress, but they did work out some good deals where they actually were able to get some surpluses and things like that. I don't know. I've mellowed.
Well, how about this, Tim? All right, since you're so enthusiastic about Clinton, let me offer another name, President John Kennedy. What's your spin? I know you weren't old enough to remember. Yeah. Okay, I already know that.
Okay. Well, back when he was in, well, that was before I was born, but, a lot of people say that he wasn't in long enough, but, he did come in a critical time, and, I would have rather had him finish out than have Johnson. I mean, because I felt that he was more positive and had a better vibe about him than LBJ had.
Well, Tim, we could talk about this subject for the whole hour, but we need to move on.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say I agree with you on that. He should have been in there longer. Unfortunately, John Kennedy was assassinated, and a lot of his groundwork continued on through Lyndon Johnson, actually, the Civil Rights Act and other things. However, not Clinton, if Kennedy had remained in office longer, we would not have got as involved as we did in Vietnam and so on. On President's Day, question for you, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
You say President Obama is number 44.
Yes.
Do you notice a common denominator here that all of them are men?
Yeah, they all are men.
Do you see a woman president in our lifetime?
It's certainly possible, especially it might be a generational thing, because I've noticed one thing, especially with people in my generation, that like you and I both worked in the student government at IPFW.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that
That's right.
there were females that were in student government. There's even a few that were president even, and they were held different roles and stuff. I think maybe it might be a generational shift where we're more used to it coming up, where there's more likely that women are getting into leadership roles from the entire get-go. Because going back to the presidents, like the American presidency, there's to choose from, like most presidents are either senators or governors or like in the past representatives. There's not a big pool of women in those roles either. There's not very many senators that are women. There's still a lower percentage of women that are representatives. There's still a low percentage that are governors. So once you see those barriers changing there, where women are holding those roles, you'll eventually get to see one that's president.
Tim, that's interesting you bring up when you and I Tim and I basically worked together at IPFW in elections there, because every university has student governments and they vote for their leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these people are getting experience to eventually become a leader beyond the university after they graduate. But Tim, do you remember we interviewed somebody for student government elections, and she was a woman, and I remember we asked her, what is your goal? She said, my goal is to become the first woman president of the United States. Seriously. No, this really happened. I mean, that was her goal. Now, I think there's a couple people, now she's of course like maybe graduating this year or next year, whatever, and moving on, and I think you have to be 35, don't you, to run for
35.
president? So, I mean, we're not talking anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about people who are anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
Hillary Clinton. What do you think?
I don't think she's gonna do it. I mean, I think she's reached a point in her life where she feels that she's done enough. I mean, it's not me saying that she's done enough or something like that because of her age or anything, but it's just she feels like she's been in the public spotlight for long enough.
Yeah, she said Hillary Clinton would, of course, be the Secretary of State now under Barack Obama, and President Bill Clinton's wife, of course. And she did say she's tired. Mm-hmm. She really doesn't want to be Secretary of State for another 4 years either.
Mm-hmm.
But then we look ahead, because we have Barack Obama running for the next 4 years. So if I were Hillary Clinton, I'd be thinking 4 more years when she's not tired anymore. Mm-hmm. No, I don't mean that disrespectfully to her. I wouldn't want that job. I mean, she's all over the place trying to do the job she's doing. And Secretary of State, that's not the easiest job in the world. But in 4 more years, Tim, do you think she'd run?
I have a hard time picturing it, really.
Yeah, I think even in Hillary's mind, when she was talking about, the Secretary of State thing again, and she also ruled out, this is important, she was asked about, how about you running with Barack Obama as the vice president? Mm-hmm. And Joe Biden, the current vice president, and Hillary Clinton would swap positions. Mm-hmm. She ruled that out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a sign.
That's kind of a smart move. And plus, switching vice presidents would kind of be a sign of weakness for the Obama administration anyway. 'Cause
And it's not like Barack Obama suggested it. It's the media people, asking questions like you and I are doing here today, asking questions and trying to present our news and views on Pasa on RadioLatinoTV.com. Well, Tim, before we move on to other subjects, we're still recapping the weekend here. Peyton Manning, back in the news. Do you know why? Oh, I shouldn't put you on the hot seat like that.
I know there's quite a few reasons why. I mean, eventually they're going to determine what to do with him in Indianapolis, whether to pay him that $28 million part of his contract for him to stay.
That's
or
right,
to go.
Tim. You actually had the right answer on that one. I'm sorry I put you on the spot. Anyway, yes, Peyton Manning, quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, has been injured all year, and the Colts ended up finishing in last place without him. Actually, there's another reason. You mentioned one of them. There's like 3 reasons he's in the news this week. Peyton Manning has a children's hospital in Indianapolis at St. Vincent's. It's called the Peyton Manning Children's Hospital at St. Vincent's. Outstanding. They take people regardless of income. Peyton Manning helps pay for it. And we've had a man from Fort Wayne, Indiana, who actually had a kidney transplant there from Fort Wayne, Indiana. And is doing very well today, Jorge Gonzalez. Doing very, very well today. And continuing on, and thanks to, really, Peyton Manning to help pay for this, and he did. Well, he has contributed, Tim, you just mentioned his $25 million bonus that the Colts don't know whether to pay. And here's what Peyton Manning's doing with his money today. He contributed more money to continue to support the hospital, Peyton Manning Children's Hospital in Indianapolis, and he also provides scholarship money from his alma mater at the University of Tennessee. And so he made another donation to provide more scholarship funding for needy students for the University of Tennessee. Isn't that something? He's taken money and he's putting it back to the community, and the whole issue is whether the Colts should keep him on or not. Okay, we are actually going to take an intermission, and we really want to thank everyone here today on RadioLatinoTV.com, Pasa Show, and let you know we wish Fernando Zapari a happy, well-deserved vacation. And hope you keep listening. We have much more to discuss. We'll be back shortly. We've only done the first 3. We've only covered the first 3. We haven't even covered number 2 yet.
Wow.
When we come back, Raul, I'm going to go over